let's do this. But again, my brain's wired differently. I mean, my brain is wired for this. So I feel comfortable in those situations. And even the conversation we're having, right? So for listeners who aren't aware, you and I met however minutes we've been doing this podcast ago. We met 2 minutes before we
Yeah.
started. I have no idea what your question list is. Nothing that I've said has been prepared in advance. It's not like you're asking me questions I get asked every day.
Yeah.
Most podcasters are not saying to me, so tell me about the political situation in Haiti
Yeah.
and the relationship between gangs and its future survival. It's like, it's not coming up. So we're just going for it. A lot of people would be terrified in this situation. That doesn't make me better. It just means that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But I think that people feel intimidated. They don't want to be judged. They don't want people laughing at them. They don't want to feel foolish. And that insecurity is not a detriment. And I'm not slighting those folks. It makes perfect sense why you'd be terrified of those things. But I think that society doesn't reward us very well for speaking up sometimes. And people sometimes are maybe afraid that if they speak up, that they might be criticized. So I think that's where the fear of one way the fear of public speaking manifests in people.
Yeah, I think the people don't realize, like, suppose you go to an event and like Tom Brown is up there talking about, we'll say, social media. You can automatically presume that Tom Brown is an expert on social media, right?
That's right.
Now, sometimes Tom Brown might say some stuff 3 minutes in, like, okay, this guy knows what the fuck you're talking about, you know? But that's on you, right?
Well,
But you get the benefit of the doubt, I think.
and this is why when you ask me questions about, for example, the history of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, I could come up with some off the wall or marginally correct answer for you about that, or but I'm not up to speed on it. So I'd rather just say, you know what, I think the people should need to Google that and figure it out for themselves rather than pretend. And yeah, that's true. Hand somebody a microphone and a stage and an audience. Going back to what we talked about earlier about the transformation of ritual to theater, this isn't somebody. Yes, this is the Darth Vader
I
thing
have
again.
my phone like on like don't ring either.
That's okay. That's okay. Maybe it's actually Darth Vader calling. You
Yeah.
should answer next time.
No, right, huh?
So the point is that this isn't somebody howling at the moon or dancing in some ritualistic way. This is theater. I mean, you hand somebody a microphone and say, "You're up in front of people. Let's go." People are going to perceive them in a very certain way as a performer, maybe as an expert, maybe as an authority. There's a famous book on theater by a guy named Peter Brook. And Peter Brook wrote a book called The Empty Space. And the first line of The Empty Space is, I can take any space and call it a bare stage. And basically what he goes into talking about is that as long as we have a space to do something that is defined, whether that's an open space or whether that's an enclosed space, a stage, no stage, what have you, as long as we have that space and somebody to watch, he specifies, somebody to watch this experience happen, then a theatrical moment is being created. And in that theatrical moment, the person performing becomes performer, expert, authority, what have you. And this is especially true in our culture. If you hand somebody a microphone, they seem like an authority. Now, for the speaker, that has with it a tremendous amount of responsibility. It means that I can't just sit here and say, well, let me tell you about the history of the Dominican Republic. The line between the two countries was invented by Herbert Dominica. Like, I could make something up just because I have the microphone. My responsibility to the listener is to not overextend my authority. So, and my expertise.
Yeah, with me, like, so I'm on Myers Briggs, I'm INFJ, right? Like only 1% of this world. Like 1 on 1, I'm good with this, right? But suppose like eight more people, I clam up, right? That's not, I'm not good, right? Small talk, like 7 people, yeah, I just I shut down, right?
I get it.
But now, like, suppose we were like a Seattle Chamber Conference meeting, right, with 100 people,
Yep.
and they said, "Hey, the MC can't come. Can anyone wants?" I'd raise my hand. I'll MC.
Of course,
I'll
of
MC.
course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just give me some talking points.
That's
You
it.
know.
That's it. And you can do it because you're used to being in conversation with
Mhm.
people, certainly. But I definitely have people in my life who are like that. People who are skew more towards shy, who the idea of small talk in a room is completely overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I go kind of two ways with that. There's sometimes in which I go more introverted, where I just think to myself, I'd rather be playing Fortnite and just relaxing or doing something completely without engagement. Uh, there's other times where I'm more than happy to dive in and walk up to people and shake hands and say, "Hey, I'm Greg. What are you all about? What's your story?"
Yeah.
And that even that causes people to shy away in fear if they're not inclined to do that.
And I've said this podcast before. Every podcast I have, like, this one started at 3 o'clock. At 2:50, my mind, hope Greg don't come. Like, Like maybe I'll just like go around the corner and like turn my phone off, right? And then like so I got like 5 minutes and like, okay, you got to do this, Jason, right? But every
Yeah.
podcast, like 10 minutes out, or every time I got speak in front of someone, 10, 50 minutes, I get this nauseous feeling like I can't do this. Then they're like, Jason could be, quote unquote,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad that I was the provider for you of nausea and hopefully relief today. It's funny, as I was walking up, because you and I think we suggested today. I can't remember if we had more conversations about today. The last time we were going to do this was a lot of traffic. There was an event at the
yeah,
stadium.
there's like a
Metallica was
Metallica
playing.
was here, yeah.
Yep.
Cause you went to the one that I think a Friday night.
And I went to the second one on Sunday too, so it
Okay.
would have been a total conflict. The
Yeah.
point is that we rescheduled today, but then haven't been even in touch since
No.
then. So as I'm walking up today, I'm thinking, maybe this guy's going to be around the corner with his phone off. I'm not sure if he's going to be there
Yeah.
today. And it turns out you were here, and that's
Yeah.
fantastic. And all nausea has been alleviated. So there you
Yes.
have it.
Yeah. So how does juggling thing start?
So, so
And you actually like juggle like chairs, balls, knives,
yeah,
all kind of stuff.
yeah, all kind of things. I started juggling when I was a kid. I was placed in a juggling class by mistake. I had signed up for a coin collecting class, which, as you know, is something that interested me. And I was signed up for a juggling class by mistake and ended up taking this juggling class. And the second I learned to juggle, the second I even saw juggling, not even learned, the second I learned to juggle or saw juggling even itself, I was transfixed by it because it was a metaphor essentially for focus. You can't juggle without focus. And because focus for me had always been challenging, when I saw somebody juggling, a young kid, I thought, my gosh, I want to focus like that, let alone juggle like that. And it became, for young nerdy Greg, something that I could learn to do that other people couldn't do. I found that it was fun. People were amazed by it. They were in awe of it. So I just started it. I just started with it. I started practicing all the time and was relentless with practicing, and eventually got to a point where I was performing. And then after that point, I mean, I'd found my home. So that's how it all started, though.
I think I saw somewhere on the internet where someone said you get to pick from two speakers. This guy with the PowerPoint or Greg that's going to juggle some stuff. Who do you want?
Yeah, exactly. I think the quote was, it might have even been me saying it. It sounds like something I would have said, that if the last person was talking about risk taking and I come out on stage and juggle a machete and talk about taking risks, I think that all eyes are going to be on the knife rather than, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably a Greg quote. It sounds like something I would say.
And so you've spoken like around 27 countries, right?
Yeah, it's been 27 countries now. Yeah.
So what have you learned from working with people from these different countries, and how has that, affected your like outlook on life?
Yeah, you rule. That's a Nobel Prize winning question, because I think that people all the time are interested in and or amazed by the number of countries I've spoken in, but that's not the point. The point is that I've spoken to and with people in all those countries on a mission, for lack of a better word, to try to understand what is it that we all have in common? What is it that we don't have in common? Where are the points that we can connect as human beings? It's all been, in a way, a social experiment. As long as it's been a communicative experience, it's been a social experiment to figure out what we have in common. Like, for example, I did a spoken word tour of Ukraine and Russia. I did 21 dates across Ukraine and Russia, the entire, all of Russia. And in talking to people, I went in saying, it's really unusual. But when I was growing up, we thought that you wanted to bomb us, like nuclear bomb us into obliteration. And people were categorically, unanimously, no exceptions, when I would bring that up in Russia, laughing out loud. Like, that is the most ridiculous thing you could ever have said. Where'd you get that idea? I'm like, what are you talking about? The news all the time said the Russians are out to destroy us. And they're like laughing, saying, the news all the time said the Americans are out to destroy us. I'm like, I didn't want to destroy you. And they're like, we didn't want to destroy you. I'm like, my friends didn't want to destroy you. They're like, my friends didn't want to destroy you. And it became this realization that the media has played tricks on our minds, and that the Russians didn't want to bomb us. Maybe the Russian government was insinuating this, and the American government was insinuating this, but it certainly wasn't a situation where the Russian people were running around fashioning their own nuclear bombs and they couldn't wait to just lob them across the water to our shores.